This video is not so much about the Battlefield 2 Modern Combat remake I'm working on, it's more about the effort to get the original Battlefield 2 Modern Combat back online. For a long time in the Battlefield community there has been an effort to get the original servers working again, and since the Discord group was started, many people would join the group and some of them would just ask if the game could be played again. But for others that's not enough, they want to actively get the game back online. Up until now, most efforts were ineffective, but last week there was a major breakthrough, so I thought I would share it with anyone that's interested in Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. But before I can discuss the breakthrough, I need to talk a little bit about the history of hacking this game. This isn't the first time I wanted to make this video. Back in 2019 there was a big effort to hack the game by the Discord community. So I think it's important to run through what we did back then so that you can see what the difference is and why this new breakthrough is so important. So I'm not going to be able to give a blow-by-blow account on the order in which some of these files were extracted. Discord's just not really set up very well for me to do that, but I will show you some of the more important files that we were actually able to extract out of the PlayStation 2 disc. Xer and AOG Schizo really helped out in the early days, and a lot of the community got involved and tried to help out however they could. I was able to pull a couple of things off, pretty insignificant stuff. I was able to dig through and got some images like this one here. I think it's a tiny image, but I think it was probably used for explosions in the game. A random image of a leaf, things that weren't really too important. But what I did get was some audio files, which if you played the original game, these were menu files really. And I'll let them play. If you played the game, you'll recognize these sounds. Yeah, they bring back a lot of memories. That was the little message icon. If you got a message in the game, this would go off. Pretty interesting, but not overly important. Some of the more important finds, AOG Schizo got really cool height maps from the single players. I was blown away when I seen this. Like, this was like, to me, like the first real tangible geometry that we got out of the game. Interestingly, it wasn't, height maps aren't really geometry. It's just an image that you can then turn into geometry. I didn't really know that at the time. I didn't know how that worked back then. But yeah, he was able to pull from the single player height map. So of course my mind just went to, you know, straight away the single player has these .raw files. Are there any in the multiplayer? And then he's saying that he could only find them in the single player ones. Later on, he was able to actually visualize these in a better way using better software. And actually this one here, it took me a while to figure out, but this is actually the entire map. An entire region that then there would be a couple of levels would take place in some of these, and for example this is the actual map that it was that the height map was taken from. You can see this bridge here is actually, if I scroll down, you can see the piers for that bridge would be kind of in the water here, so that if you imagine this bridge is along this bit. And I do remember up here there was some buildings as well up in that kind of mountainous area. This was like a flying mission, I remember. You could fly around the whole thing. But I also think some of the small, something like, so for example, I think the first, oh actually no, it's not, it wasn't, that's burning, I think that's burning bridges in the single player, and then this was like possibly the first level. I think that's like the end of the first level there. So yeah, usually a couple of missions would take place within one of the regions, which I actually didn't even really know about. This one here I think was interesting actually, because this area you can tell is Beach Party, which is a pretty fun map where you have to like storm the beach in a boat and then work your way up through trenches until you ultimately get to the top and take a couple of tanks out. So yeah, it's really interesting to see that he was able to get some of these height maps. Xer showing off a couple of the files. The .cat files we could not do anything with. We think they're encrypted, and we think that most of the textures and assets are in those .cat files. It's unfortunate that they're encrypted, or else we would have a lot of the original models. We still have not got into those yet. The other thing I'll mention is there's this thing called .lnd file. Now this was what was inside the multiplayer levels. We didn't have the height maps, but we had these .lnd files, and we assumed at the time that they had something to do with the geometry of the level. I'm not entirely sure that's the case, because the thing was that the height maps were missing, so we assumed that they must have been in the LND files. I'm not entirely sure that's true. Here we see Epix was actually trying to like visualize these using vertices, using the hex values, but ultimately that didn't really go anywhere. Xer tried the same thing, saving it as an OBJ and importing it in. It didn't really. We kind of looked at it and we're like, it maybe looks like some geometry, but we're not really sure. Maybe it's like landscape, we don't know. This one actually, Xer went really deep on this one actually. He even went so far as to suggest that using this old landscape program might work. Let's see, yeah, so because it was an old Sierra program, and it was like licensed to use the same format as .lnd. So because we basically just googled like how to open a .lnd file, on this like 3D landscaping thing come up. Again, that didn't really go anywhere. It wouldn't work. We tried to open up and it just wasn't working for us. But what was interesting with Epic's messages to me in the early days was he opened up, so he found like he found a list that was like levels underscore final. So, and these were the final levels. Now there was a couple of DLC levels that you could download, but these essentially were the main levels, despite or not including the DLC ones. But interestingly, he found this form, just another levels form, and it has things like let's see now, River Wild. Like that was obviously not an actual level in the final game. Road Within was never a game. Material Test level. So these are all obviously like developer stages. All vehicles. So that would have just been like, you know, I would have had all the vehicles that they could probably test out. These were kind of testing levels. And there was a theory that Xer was trying to do at the start, and we tried to do it later as well, where you kind of so like this value, like a 0 would be backstab, 1 would be debit pass, and like if you voted for the map, you would be essentially voting for that number, and that map would be pulled in. And what Xer was trying to do early on was like see if he could load up the single player, but change the value of the map, and then see if we could possibly load up the single player, or the multiplayer level in the single player. And we'll actually talk about that a little bit later, because there was again this weekend there was a bit of a breakthrough with that as well. But one other thing I want to highlight just while we're in here is there is a level, let me see if I can find it here. Wilderness. There's a level called Wilderness, number 14, and we will come back to that later on, because it's something real that again is one of these levels where it was obviously intended to be in the final game, but it must have got cut. But we have found more information out about that level, which was really interesting to me. Also, you may notice here there's a level called Wake. We think that was possibly Wake Island, or at least I think that's the case. There was, I found an article where he said they might put Wake Island in there. So yeah, very interesting that we may have actually seen Wake Island in the original game. A couple of other things I want to talk about before I move on to the big discovery, really. AOG Schizo was also able to extract a couple of single player textures, but what he was able to do was actually extract parts of the single player levels. Like he was able to use like it's actually, there's a good video here that shows you how to do it. You can essentially rip you can sort of debug your hard drive or debug your graphics card to pull models from PlayStation 2 games out of the while you're playing. And that's a completely separate method to the quick bims method. That was just like just from playing the single player, being able to pull out. That might not really help us getting the multiplayer online, but there are some assets in the single player that were also in the multiplayer, so I think it's significant to point out. So that brings us to this new discovery, this new hack that has really brought some very good information out of the game. Usually like I said, people join and they kind of ask the usual questions. Can this still be played online? What have you tried to do to hack it? These kind of questions. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And ASVP Miller joined the Discord group and asked all of those questions. And around that same time, G also joined. And, you know, we went through the whole process of, yeah, we've tried this, we've tried that. And he actually came up with a very ingenious idea. And he said, have we tried, basically he said, if we tried to look at some of the old demo discs to see if there's any content in there. I told him that I actually had the PlayStation 2 demo disc, and I even have a 360 demo disc, but I said in my reply, from memory, the demo only let you play Bridge Too Far, so my guess is that only Bridge Too Far will be on the disc. But I mean, again, if we're remaking Bridge Too Far right now, so that would be a really good thing to have. Even if we could only play Bridge Too Far, it'd be fine. Now, I said I would try and dig out. This was on eBay. He was going to buy it. But it was like $16, I think. Okay, $15. And it doesn't even ship to me, so I couldn't even have bought it. But I think usually to import things, it's really expensive. But yeah, this is the demo disc, online only demo disc. I don't even think this came out in the United Kingdom, because it looks totally different to mine. So I was like, yeah, I'll burn an ISO tonight. But before I burned it, I realized that it was like single player only, single player demo with multiplayer trailer. So it didn't even have the online mode on the disc. Actually, what my memory was, that I played the Xbox 360 demo and it was Bridge Too Far only, and it only let you play like, I think it was 10 or maybe like 30 minutes of gameplay, and then that was it. That was the cutoff point. And then someone else posting up about some of their demos that they had. So jump forward a little bit after a little bit of posting. G says, I'm not sure if this will help, but he's found the ISO, and it's slightly different to the one that was posted on eBay, but he wanted to give it a try and see if it could give us any more files. And the thing that I was interested in, I think I maybe even set it up here, was like, to be fair, any other format, the retail, let me see. I think I said something about, yeah, here we go. Yeah, the demo would have less security than the retail game. So I was kind of hoping that maybe, you know, because if you remember back, the height maps weren't actually included in the retail version of the game. So anyway, fast forward a little bit more. G has came back and says he extracted the data.arc from the public beta version and a couple of the .ra files from the multiplayer levels that are missing from the full game. And that piqued my attention a lot. I was like, I read some discussion you guys had back in June, so he actually went back through and read what we had. He said the single player levels didn't have them, but the multiplayer did. And here's a screenshot from them. So here we have Bridge Too Far, color map, and height map. And that's like this is the big breakthrough that we had, because we didn't have these color maps from the retail version. And so when I seen this, I think immediately after I seen this, I just posted back. I was actually replying to this bit here, and then I just wrote, "Oh, expletive, that looks promising stuff." So I was like, "Well, these files are different to what we have at the minute." But then I was like, you know, this is a demo. It's not going to have all of the levels. It's just going to have Bridge Too Far. But then G writes, "In fact, all of the levels are here," and I was like, my mind was just blown at this point, because I was like, immediately I think I seen that, and I was just like, my next question was like, no way. It even has Wilderness. So that was like, this is like an unreleased level that didn't actually make it into the final game, but here it was in the public beta. So it must have been like pulled just before it actually made it to the retail version. But it also makes me wonder, if this was a public beta and people were playing this, did they actually get to choose Wilderness? Like, I wonder if there's people out there who have played Wilderness, but they just forgot. Maybe they didn't realize that when it came to the full game, it wasn't there. And then this, we think, is like was like a developer room or something that was maybe kept in the game. So And he's like, yeah, they're pretty identical to the Bridge Too Far, even Wilderness. So even Wilderness has the color map and height map. So I was like, wow, nice job. This was huge to me. And I said I'd be really keen to get my hands on those color maps and height maps. And before I could even start to even download them myself, with the knowledge that AOG Schizo had from doing the single player levels, he also was able to do the same thing with these new height maps. So this we're looking at right now is Backstab. Incredible that we actually have the landscape for Backstab. So this is like a huge breakthrough for me. It's obviously huge for just the game in general, because this is just another step closer to getting the game back online, having the actual files. But for me personally, I can actually then take this and then import it into my 3D modeling software, and I can actually start. I was actually going to start, the next map he posted was Bridge Too Far, and the next job I had was to actually start to model some of the surrounding landscape, these kind of surrounding mountains, the outer levels where our base is going to be, the larger conquest base, and then this like mountain here. I was literally within the next couple of weeks, that was my next thing to do, was model this. Now I don't have to, and now I've got like the exact data that has the proper heights and things for these mountains and things. That's really helpful for me. Then he posted an S, and I was just like, this is insane stuff, and I just got everyone on the Discord to let them all know. Deadly Pass looked a little bit different to me, but later on we'll see a version of it with the color map included as well, and it looks so much better. And then he posted the Mysterious Wilderness. So this level here is essentially, we think, never seen before. So that's really insane that this map, certainly in the retail version, like this didn't make it, and this is like just mining ancient files here that just like have never seen the light of day for, I mean, probably since they were actually originally worked on. It looks like a level that is familiar to me. There's a level in the game, I think it's possibly called Honor, where there's like this landing strip here. I'm pretty sure I have a memory of like, and then this was like a temple and then something else, but then maybe it's just, I don't know, I'd have to actually compare that to Honor. It looks kind of like it, but not really. But I actually, the more I look at it, I think where I'm circling right now, this was probably one of the bases, and then maybe like up here was the other base. One team would spawn here, the other team would spawn here, and it's a fight for the middle, I think. But yeah, that's just wild stuff there, that we have a level that was never even released. Let's see, I'll just keep scrolling down here. So there's the, that's a PNG. Let's keep scrolling down. This one here is just Backstab that's been colored like what Backstab looks like, more sandy kind of color, and we've got the river and stuff, so yeah. Just quickly scroll down. This one's hidden. Took me a while. No, sorry, this is Black Gold. Took me a while to actually figure out what this level even was. Black Gold was, you had this like oil refinery out at the water, so one team would spawn in this flat area. You'd jump on some vehicles and then fly out to the oil rig, or take boats. You'd also take a boat. And I think it was called like an incursion map, where if the team that spawned on the island could take all of the flags, then the enemy team couldn't spawn, which was a cool little mechanic. So like if you killed everyone that was left alive and all the flags were taken, then the game ended. Pretty cool level. Let's see what else there is. This is really nice. So this is one of the first color maps that was posted, and this gives us a really good insight into where the roads were, for example, where the dirt roads were, and the kind of, you can see all these like nice little tire tracks and stuff, and some of the buildings and things like that. So, and shortly, I was actually at that time I was working on the file anyway. I was trying to get the height map into Blender, and so when he posted that image, I was able to just copy that image and just paste it onto my landscape that I was working on, just to see if I could get Backstab into Blender. We had a bit of a back and forth here, but I was talking about how how optimized the PlayStation 2 version was and how unoptimized the landscape was for these height maps. But I've actually very quickly found a way to fix that. This is just an example of the floor of one of the PlayStation levels, and this is the floor of the terrain map export that we got. But yeah, I showed it very quick. You could very quickly kind of get rid of a lot of the vertices. There's another version of the color map added. This is the interesting part. So I was talking, this is another interesting part, I should say. Remember, whenever I was talking about Xer trying to actually inject some of the multiplayer levels into the single player, well, G was effectively able to pull this off. A lot of messing about on his end, back and forward, changing values and things. I couldn't even tell you how he done it, but he was actually able. There's a proof of concept, as he says here. He was able to actually get for this one he was able to spawn outside the level, so he was able to change his spawn in the single player later on, but he is actually able to inject. There we go. Pretty hard to tell. Do you have a screenshot? Oh yeah, so here he says at some point he says that he was able to get bridge too far in. The landscape for bridge too far, which you can see there, that's the height map. This is like a river, the river part here. It's just purely the height map, and he's highlighted on the map roughly where he was standing. So he's looking at this kind of river section here. So yeah, so he was actually able to, it's hard to see, it's hard to tell here. He was able to inject the level into the single player. Now, the interesting thing about this is the effects are still the snow. So like, this is almost like we're looking at what Bridge Too Far would be like in the snow, and we kind of had that conversation about how that would be pretty cool to actually do in the remake, or if we actually get the full game up and running. Here's some examples of me using this new information, like getting the really detailed height map and then like degrading it so that it was more usable in our software. So essentially I was going to keep the flat stuff flat and low poly, and then keep the mountainous area like higher poly, but you can almost not tell the difference between the super high res one and the low res one, so I'm really happy with that. I was able to get that in there. More screenshots from G, just trying to inject the single players. This is a really nice image of Deadly Pass, again with the color map added. I haven't added color maps to all the levels yet, but this is going to be a nice one to work on at some point. Really clear. It wasn't as clear from the earlier version of Deadly Pass, the one that was originally posted, but when you apply the color map, it's clear to see that it is in fact Deadly Pass. Just really bringing these levels back to life is what's one of the most interesting things about this, if nothing else. These levels really haven't been like viewed as their original format for a very long time. Yeah, so I think that's probably it so far. I'll just load up my my master file that I'm working on right now. I think this discovery is going to lead to so many improvements. If certainly this is a step in the right direction to getting this game back online, just getting some of these files. But also this is massively going to help me in working with the remake project. I'll be able to use these height maps for many of the other levels. I was really worried actually about backstab and modeling some of the terrain in backstab, because it's a very terrain heavy level. It's basically all terrain and mountains and roads and stuff. Bridge Too Far I chose, I talked about this in my last video on how I chose this because it was nice and flat. There's only a couple of mountains and they're pretty insignificant. Like if they're not modeled correct, it doesn't really matter. Whereas if backstab's modeled incorrectly, like the heights are off, it's going to be very noticeable and probably quite annoying for people playing it. So it's really important to get that accurate, and now as you can see we are able to get this terrain in here, and it also gives me, I've already drawn this out in CAD, but it gives me like ideas of where to place things. Unfortunately it's actually left me with a bit of a problem on this level because it's slightly out of scale, and I think I'll probably make a separate video about that because I don't want this video to go on too much longer. But yeah, really crazy stuff. I never thought we would get some of this information out of the game, and really it took just a new member to join and come up with like some ideas. If it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for Miller posting that, like, why don't we try the demo, I probably just would never really have thought of it. In fact, the demo didn't come out over here. It was like a US demo, so I probably would have never thought of it. And just that little idea sparked a whole bunch of changes. And there are other demos out there we haven't bought, and we were thinking about maybe trying to get other versions of the game. But yeah, who knows what that might lead to, and who knows, this could be the start of things to come. This could lead to lots more discoveries. I'm hoping it does. And I'll try and update any major new breakthroughs that happen. If anyone watching this has any experience in hacking old games or anything like that, we would love to hear from you, because there are still a lot of files there that we haven't been able to access. So please get in touch, and yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.